Hi guys, it's Saturn here from Team Revlation, and I wanted to take you through a recent match of mine during a DSAL competition, Buff Dragon versus Elluvia Haven. And if you're wondering what DSAL is, I'll just give you a really quick overview. It's a team-based format, 5v5, and each player in the team is assigned a deck. In this case, I was assigned Dragoncraft. Once you win a match, then you pass, and the aim is to have all of your members pass their deck. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, I'll just show you the deck that I registered for the competition. Obviously, Buff Dragon is a solid choice out of the 8 classes. I'm pretty sure all 32 teams also brought Buff Dragon. But as you can see, I might have been cooking a little too hard here with the inclusion of Doomsday Shark. I did see some JCG lists using Shark, and the pro player SHG Adam had streamed some of his ratings matches with Shark, and I thought it seemed okay. So my thinking was, now that we run Lucky Mermaid, there is an opportunity to perhaps, instead of buffing the deck, spending a turn to ramp so that you can play Sharks on turn 4. And then being able to use Lucky Mermaid to fix any cards that you may have drawn, that were 1 or 2 buffs short of being useful. Turns out I was the only one who was thinking that way. Okay, so let's review the match. So at this point, upon seeing my opponent's name, I'm able to check what Mocker is going to be playing, and it turned out he was playing Haven. So just quickly, the matchup between Buff Dragon and Haven is favored for Buff Dragon, and how you usually lose is if you fail to set up any strong tempo early, if you don't find an answer for ambush followers, and of course, if you're unable to clear a Jean board in the later stages of the game. So this has an impact on the mulligan. Obviously, you want to look for a high tempo start. So here during the mulligan, we're offered Joe, Shark, and Wormcrafting. I wanted to keep Joe, and I threw the other 2 cards looking for perhaps another academic follower. Okay. So turn 1, obviously we play Mermaid. Now, so for this turn here, my initial consideration was to perhaps send Megala Orca Rider back with Joe, and then draw with DSAL, because then we would have had 2 buffs in deck. However, after some consideration and having a Joe in hand, I know that I don't run any Gunbean, so I have a pretty good chance of either finding Dion, or probably the best draw we could get from Orca would be Tamer. And you can see here that I initially went to send Joe and then decided to go with Orca. And there we go, rewarded with a Tamer. So Tamer, obviously the best line here. So my opponent obviously doesn't want to take too much damage and spends a conviction. And was a little unlucky with the Apostle there. Okay, now this turn was a little bit tricky. I did spend some time thinking here, obviously ramping quite nice. However, as I mentioned earlier, one of the ways you can win against Haven is presenting some high tempo, particularly before their first Evo turn. And so I opted to play the Grand Slam, which of course buffs the deck, and then draw with DSAL, which is a little bit risky because you obviously need something to deal with ambush followers in some coming turns. However, as I knew that I had Lucky Mermaid in hand, and Heaven Scale, there was a pretty good chance that I would be able to deal with them. So I opted for the higher tempo play here, which was Grand Slam, and then drew with DSAL. So this was a really nice pickup from DSAL, because it meant that in the following turn, when we Evo Lucky Mermaid, we can recover that evolution point immediately. So Mocha here was very good at the game. Manages to clear the 1-1 with the Evo. Was lucky enough to hit the only follower with less than 2 health. And was able to do a good job clearing. So as I mentioned before, now some people have asked why don't you send Joe back first? Obviously Joe costs 5, so we need to spend some play points to be able to accelerate Joe. And in this case, we can send back the Dion that doesn't recover us an Evo following the Lucky Mermaid. And this also sets up, like I mentioned before, Heaven Scale with a reasonable amount of defense to clear ambush followers. Okay, so this would be an Elluvia turn. No Aether. But he did manage to find a Lu here. And of course that is a full clear. Okay, so here we get to see the shark. It's tempting to want to play the Heaven Scale here, to draw into, you know, potentially more cards, a Joe, some strikers or tamers. But as turn 6 is coming up, I really want to save that Heaven Scale to deal with ambush followers. So in this case, as we have a Dion that recovers an Evo, we can pretty safely play Shark, evolve one of them, and immediately recover that Evo again, while maintaining a pretty decent board presence that doesn't want to be ignored. Obviously we want to keep as much health on board as possible, so we trade off the smaller one. Okay, so fortunately for me, this was a very weak turn. Just one agent. And as we'd already planned before, our Heaven Scale was ready to deal with that. So instead of just playing immediately, it's always best practice to draw first. So in this case, we can play some worm craftings first and see what options become available. Okay, and there we go. So in seeing that, I'm feeling very confident at this point, as that is 16 damage from hand with an Evo. So I'm able to play the Heaven Scale to clear, and then Evo'd Dion, once again trying to keep as much health on the board as I can to survive a Jean, possibly with Muse Gourmand as well. There are 2 amulets, so there's a good chance that 2 things will get cleared, but obviously you try and make your board as annoying as possible. And spreading the stats out, I feel was a good strategy in this case. Okay, so here we see a Jean. Into agent. Vidalia. And that is, of course, a full clear. Okay, so we have 16 from hand. I do top deck a striker. And in this case, just to be really sure, as it is a competitive setting, I do play more cards than necessary, just in case I miscalculated. Okay guys, so there you go. I hope you found that match breakdown interesting. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. And of course, come and say hi when I'm streaming on Twitch or here on YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. Alright, take care.